Wade Corbin was supposed to be home by 9. His daughter turned 7 at 6:14 the next morning, a fact she had announced to him over the phone 3 separate times that week, always with the minute included, because at 7 years old, the minute still mattered. The ice storm didn't care about any of that. It rolled over the region a little after sunset and shut the airport down runway by runway, and by 10 o'clock, the departure board at Lanford Regional had gone from a column of delays to a wall of red cancellations top to bottom, every city gone at once. Wade had seen airports empty out before. This was different. Lanford was a small field, 2 concourses and a food court, the kind of place that ran 11 flights a day and closed its coffee stand at 8. When the cancellations posted, most people simply left. They had cars in the lot, or family 20 minutes away, or hotel shuttles idling at the curb with their wipers fighting the sleet. Within an hour, the crowd of 200 had drained to a few dozen. Within 2, Wade could count the people left in Concourse B without standing up. 11. He counted them the way a man counts anything at midnight when his phone is dead and his charger is zipped inside a checked bag, riding a cancelled flight. A college kid asleep across 3 chairs with his hood cinched shut. An older man in a canvas jacket at gate B6, sitting perfectly upright. A woman with a paperback. 2 men in matching sales conference lanyards. A grandmother parked near the windows with her purse held on her lap like a cat. Others scattered farther down, half in shadow, because the airport had started shutting off lights over the empty gates to save power. And the far end of the concourse had gone the deep blue colour of an aquarium after hours. The gate agents left at midnight. All of them at once, coats on, badges swinging, moving in a tight little group like they'd agreed on it in advance. One of them, a heavy-set man with kind eyes, paused near Wade's row on his way out. He didn't say the airport was closing. He didn't say anything at first. He just looked down the concourse at the dark end of it for a second too long. "Rebooking desk opens at 5, he said finally. "Stay up near the front by the security exit. Lights stay on up here." Wade asked if there was an outlet that worked. The agent was already walking away. The storm leaned on the building all night. Ice ticked against the tall windows in waves, and beneath that there was a lower sound, a slow structural groaning that Wade told himself was the roof handling the weight. Airports made noises. Everything made noises. At 1 in the morning, the sleeping college kid was gone. Wade noticed it the way you notice a missing tooth, a wrongness before an absence. The 3 chairs the kid had been stretched across were empty, and his backpack was still there, propped against the chair leg, one strap standing up stiff. Wade watched the backpack for 20 minutes. Nobody came back for it. He told himself the kid had found a better spot, a bench, a floor vent blowing heat. People moved around, that was all. At 2, he walked to the restroom at the midpoint of the concourse, past the line where the lit gates ended and the blue dark began, and that was when he saw the departure board do it. The board still cycled, pointlessly, through the dead flight list, and beneath it the standby screen for the morning's first rebooking still glowed with its column of names. Wade had read that column 3 times out of boredom. 14 names. He knew his own sat 5th, Corbin/W. As he passed, the screen refreshed the way those screens do, a soft blink, and the column came back with 10 names. 4 were simply gone. No cancellation note, no shuffle. The list had closed the gaps like water closing over a stone, and the names above and below had slid together as if nothing had ever stood between them. He stood in front of the screen until it blinked again. 10 names. His own had moved up to 4th. He counted the concourse from where he stood. He got to 7. Wade was not a man who frightened easily, and he spent the next stretch of that night doing what unfrightened men do, building explanations. People had called rides. People had walked to the little regional terminal across the field. The board was buggy, but the explanations kept snagging on the same detail. The ones who were gone had left everything. The backpack. A rolling suitcase standing alone at B9 with its handle still raised. A paperback splayed open on a seat, pages down, the way you leave a book when you mean to be back in a minute. At 2:45, the woman from the paperback seat went to the restroom, and Wade, ashamed of himself, watched her the whole way. She passed the last lit gate. She passed into the blue, and at the edge of the moving walkway, in the long dead stretch where the ceiling lights were off, the wall moved. It did not step out of a hiding place, because it had not been hiding. It had been flat. Wade understood that all at once, with a lurch like a missed stare. The shape had been lying against the wall, the way a carving lies in stone. A figure in shallow relief. There the entire night. And now it peeled forward off the surface with a sound like tape lifting. It came away taller than the doorway behind it. Its limbs unfolded in sections, each segment sliding out of the last the way a jet bridge extends, joint after squared off joint, too many of them, reaching lengths that arms are never asked to reach. And along its underside, where a chest should have been, hung row after row of thin translucent plates, pale as boarding passes, and every one of them was shivering. The woman never turned around. It closed over her from behind, the plates folding forward, and the whole event made less noise than the ice on the windows. The walkway hummed. The wall was just a wall. Wade was standing in the middle of the concourse, with his heart slamming and a count of 6 in his head. He did not sleep. He sat under the brightest light he could find and worked the pattern like a man working a knot, because the pattern was the only thing between him and the blue end of the building. It hadn't taken the salesman who talked on their phones half the night, someone on the other end. It hadn't taken the grandmother who kept telling the empty air in the loud, fond voice of a woman on speakerphone that yes, she was fine, and no, don't drive in this, come at daybreak. It took the kid with the singed hood who had spoken to no one, the upright man at B6 who had checked his phone all night and never once had it light up, the woman with the paperback, traveling alone, waiting on nothing. It took the ones nobody was expecting, the unclaimed, and Wade's phone had been dead since 9 o'clock, which meant that in whatever ledger that thing kept, no one on earth was waiting for Wade Corbin. His daughter turned 7 at 6:14. His wife would be asleep with her phone on the nightstand, assuming he'd landed, assuming he'd walk in with the storm behind him. Nobody was calling him. Nobody knew to. The far lights at his end of the concourse went out at 4, not all at once. Gate by gate, the dark walking toward him, and in the last lit stretch, Wade got up and crossed to the grandmother by the windows and heard himself say, in a voice he barely recognized, that his phone had died and his little girl had a birthday in the morning, and could he please borrow hers for 1 minute. She handed it over without a single question. the way grandmothers do. His wife answered on the second ring, terror in her voice at the strange number, and then relief, and then his daughter, already awake, because 7-year-olds do not sleep through birthday nights. Wade sat under the last working light and let her tell him about the minute 6:14, don't forget, and he watched the dark end of the concourse while she talked. Something at the edge of the blue had gone very still. The shivering he could just make out along its underside, that constant papery trembling, had stopped, the way a compass needle stops when it loses north. He stayed on that phone until the line at the rebooking desk formed at 5. He stood so close to the grandmother in that line that she patted his arm. The morning flight boarded 22 people, scraped together from 3 cancelled roads. Wade counted every one of them onto the plane. Then he made himself look back once, down the length of Concourse B, at the walls. The backpack was gone. The suitcase was gone. The paper bag was gone. Nothing left behind, nothing to report. And Wade understood, buckling his seatbelt with shaking hands, why no one ever had. You cannot file a missing persons report for a person nobody missed. That was the whole design of it. It didn't hide its hunting ground. It chose prey the world had already misplaced. Wade got home at 9 in the morning. He was 3 hours late for the minute, and his daughter forgave him before he was through the door, and he held on to her long enough that she laughed and asked what was wrong. He charges his phone every night now, at every layover, in every terminal. And when a flight cancels and a stranger sits alone with a dead screen and no one to call, Wade Corbin lends them his phone and stands beside them while they use it, and he does not tell them why.